Hey everyone, you're listening to Concentrates with Dr. T, a podcast discussing cannabis science and business. This podcast is published on YouTube and Spotify. Please follow me on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Discord. The information can be found in the description below. Please like and comment with any questions about cannabis that you have. Today, we're going to talk about some major principles of extraction facility design. This episode will give you important information you'll need to know when deciding where and how to build out your cannabis extraction facility. This is also something I am able to help you with on a consulting basis, whether you occupy an existing facility, plan to build a new facility, or you need a solid floor plan for a license application. So thank you for joining me today. We'll get started shortly. Welcome back to Concentrates with Dr. T. Today's topic is very exciting to me because it touches on a lot of my favorite things to talk about, like safety, efficiency, and the production of high-quality products. Before we get started on how to design a marijuana extraction facility, it is good to get on the same page about what such a facility is for, the basics about how it operates, the inputs and outputs of such a facility, and its goals. Marijuana extraction facilities are becoming increasingly important as the demand for cannabis products continues to rise. These facilities are used to extract cannabinoids and terpenes from the cannabis plant, which can be used to make a wide range of products, including concentrates, vape cartridges, and edibles. In a typical facility, cannabis flowers and leaves are acquired through purchase or by growing and curing in-house. These flowers and leaves, often referred to as biomass, are then dried and ground up in preparation for extraction. A typical extraction process involves soaking the biomass in a solvent, which draws the desired compounds into the solvent, separating the biomass from the solvent by filtration, and then separating the solvent from the desired compounds, which are the cannabinoids. The resulting crude extract can then be purified or used directly in products depending upon what you are making. The main goals of these businesses are, of course, to make money, but also to create products that consumers in legal marketplaces want, and to create these products in a consistent manner. Other goals include worker safety and consumer safety, market dominance, product research, and community outreach. All of these goals can be hindered by the design of a facility. Designing a marijuana extraction facility requires careful planning and consideration of several factors. Here are some key things to keep in mind when designing a marijuana extraction facility. Number 1, safety. Worker safety should be the top priority when designing a marijuana extraction facility. Ensuring worker safety doesn't just prevent you from facing costly workers' compensation claims, potential lawsuits, and OSHA fines. By ensuring worker safety in facility design, you naturally create a facility that is more comfortable, clean, and efficient. This adds up to a more consistent, quality product at a lower cost to produce. Increased employee retention, and increased employee satisfaction with their jobs. Extraction processes typically involve the use of hazardous materials and equipment, including flammable and explosive solvents such as butane, ethanol, and propane, which can be extremely dangerous if not handled properly. The facility should be designed to minimize the risk of fire or explosion and should include features such as ventilation systems, explosion-proof electrical equipment, chemical sensors, and emergency shutoff switches. Using butane and propane is especially dangerous because these are odorless explosive gases. Improper understanding of how the equipment operates can lead to sudden releases, creating hazardous situations. In the years leading up to cannabis legalization in Washington and Colorado, there were many reports of people performing butane extractions at home and setting fire to entire apartment buildings and other structures. Thankfully, with legalization came regulation, and these kinds of incidents happen less often in cannabis businesses than with home extractions. With the easy availability of high-quality butane extracts at legal dispensaries, many home extractors have given up on their old ways. This is a testament to how legalization of cannabis benefits everyone. Employees need appropriate safety training in addition to their training for how to properly operate the equipment and perform their job duties. Even in the best engineered buildings, emergencies can happen. It is essential to train your employees how to appropriately respond to the emergency situations that they might face. This is true for all extraction methods, no matter how much of a halo effect they may have surrounding them. Rosin press, for example, uses no solvents, but that doesn't mean it is hazard-free. The equipment is extremely hot and heavy and could cause burns if not properly handled. Besides hazards specific to the industrial extraction processes, employees should be aware of what to do and where to go during a fire alarm, how to handle a chemical spill, what to do should an injury occur, and more. When I was managing a cannabis extraction operation, I communicated safety information regularly, encouraged employees to come to me with any questions or concerns, and provided annual safety training to everyone in the company. We made it a fun day, holding the training during the summertime so we could have a company barbecue and engage in outdoor live fire extinguisher exercises. While this may seem boring at first, employees really do bond over safety and the confidence that comes with knowing how to handle an emergency situation. In my experience, having a culture of safety improves employee morale, boosting productivity. Another less commonly talked about hazard in marijuana extraction facilities is the cannabis dust that is generated during milling and other operations such as waste transfer. While many people are able to tolerate this dust without much of an issue, there are many others who can have varying levels of sensitivity to it. Some people will get the sniffles, experience throat irritation, and some people will even have full-blown allergic reactions, asthma attacks, and other potentially life-threatening reactions to the dust. In fact, there is an OSHA reported incident in Massachusetts where a worker who was filling pre-rolls expressed that she could not breathe and later died. I suspect that she had an extreme sensitivity to cannabis dust like I do, possibly an allergy, but also possibly asthma or another condition was triggered by this exposure. I talk about this incident at length in Season 1, Episode 3 of this podcast. I call myself the canary in the coal mine when it comes to cannabis dust. I get a runny nose and puffy, watery eyes before it triggers my asthma and I'm having trouble breathing. This kind of sensitivity to cannabis dust is much more common than you think. And before you say you'll just provide masks to everyone, you need to know that OSHA has very specific rules about mask use in workplaces. I have an SOP available for purchase that will help guide management in making appropriate decisions about providing or requiring employee mask use. Also, you can't just assume you'll only find workers who do not have this kind of sensitivity. Even if you do, you have to consider potential visitors to your facility, such as investors, inspectors, law enforcement, fire department personnel, and outside contractors. It is better to design dust control measures into your facility from the beginning. Having adequate ventilation and filtration is a good start, but there are other things you can do to minimize this hazard, and contain the dust as much as possible to prevent it from contaminating finished products. One such strategy is to compartmentalize the dust generating operations into small rooms separate from your other production areas. Other safety concerns that arise in cannabis extraction facilities include trip hazards, high pressure lines and vessels, hot and cold surfaces, heavy objects, glass under vacuum, rotating equipment, and many others. Properly addressing these hazards during facility design will save a lot of money and time for you down the road. Efficiency is also an important consideration when designing a marijuana extraction facility. The facility should be designed to minimize waste and maximize yield, while also minimizing the use of energy and other resources. This can be achieved through the use of advanced extraction equipment such as closed-loop systems, which allow for the recovery and reuse of solvents after extracting cannabinoids and terpenes. Energy use is also minimized by placing extraction equipment in properly ventilated and insulated rooms with adequate climate control. Rooms that are too hot or too cold will make the equipment use more electricity, result in inconsistent products, cause premature and costly maintenance issues, and many other problems. Yield can be maximized by understanding your input materials and output products and running calculations to see how much cannabinoid is going into the extractor versus coming out. In-house testing can be very useful for these purposes, but if you don't have that available, you can always send samples to your licensed third-party testing lab. But this will take days to get results versus minutes with an in-house HPLC. Once you understand what is going in and what is coming out, you can make changes and run experiments to make sure your equipment and parameters are getting the most out of the biomass that it possibly can. Efficiency isn't always about energy inputs and outputs. Efficiency is also about workflow and equipment placement. Each part of the extraction process will require its own space to operate. By having dedicated workspaces, you can keep each part of the operation moving at all times. The arrangement of these workspaces also matters. You want to have the messier parts of the process separate from the cleaner parts, and also in line. What I mean by that is you don't want to have a situation where your finished concentrates are coming out of a vacuum oven that is in your biomass grinding room where dust from the raw material can fall into your finished product. This is one example of improper workflow, but this kind of thing can cause problems at any step in the process. Another key to efficiency is providing enough room for employees to perform their regular duties, get around equipment to maintain and repair it, and to store all the necessary raw materials, tools, and spare parts without making the rooms oversized, thereby unnecessarily increasing construction costs and operational expenses such as climate control and taxes. However, you may also want to leave room for expansion or additional equipment so you can scale your business up in the future. Make sure you have enough places to store your raw materials, packaging, and finished products. Getting all of this right is tricky, and it is something that I excel at. Compliance. Marijuana extraction facilities are subject to strict regulations and compliance requirements, which can vary depending on the country, state, or even town in which the facility is located. Some states will allow smaller municipalities to create further restrictions on cannabis businesses, while others do not. It is important to know this before you even select the site for your new or existing facility. The facility should be designed to comply with all applicable regulations and should include features such as secure storage areas for cannabis products, security cameras, and access control systems. You need to be aware of the specific zoning laws in your state before you can identify the ideal location for your extraction lab. Many states limit the proximity of extraction facilities to daycares, playgrounds, elementary schools, public parks, and residential areas. The acceptable distance is typically at least 1,000 feet away. Handling and disposing of waste is also as much of a compliance issue as it is a safety issue. All of the same rules for handling hazardous waste apply to marijuana extraction companies just as any other company. So if you're disposing of solvent waste, you will need to hire an appropriate chemical waste company to dispose of it for you. If you're generating and disposing of high enough quantities of solvent waste, you may have to register with the EPA and pay for permits. States will also have very specific requirements for disposing of waste containing cannabis. For example, most states will require you to render the cannabis waste unrecognizable and mixed with an inert substance in at least a 50% ratio. The idea is to mix the cannabis waste with something nasty like dirt so that it can't be recognized or separated and then used later. This accomplishes several goals, including limiting diversion and disincentivizing criminals from breaking into the trash at cannabis companies and causing messes or other nuisances. Even with these measures in place, there are people who are more than willing to get into the trash outside of your cannabis facility to look for anything usable. So most states further require that you lock up your trash. Designing your facility is also important when it comes to good manufacturing practices or GMP compliance and certification. GMP is a set of standards, practices, and systems for documenting the creation of a product from raw materials to finished packaging and storage. GMP are required for all food production facilities in the USA and for those that import to the USA. While not strictly required for licensed marijuana businesses at this time, it is a good idea for your company to become GMP certified now. It will eventually be required for all cannabis businesses, and doing so now actually helps your business. Achieving GMP compliance can be literally impossible if a facility is not designed properly. Examples of this include situations where waste and finished goods must be stored together, and the use of inappropriate building materials such as wood instead of non-porous materials like stainless steel. If you're in a building with wood construction and wood tables, you will never be able to achieve GMP certification because these surfaces can never be sanitized. I took a brand new facility and led a team to develop and implement good manufacturing practices. We hired a third-party company to audit us and certified that we were, in fact, GMP compliant. Many companies will claim to follow GMP practices, but fail to receive GMP certification through a third party, so their claims cannot be backed up. Another big part of compliance when it comes to extraction is which solvents and methods are allowed and which are banned. This can vary from state to state or municipality to municipality. The exact location of your facility can also impact what solvents and methods are available to you. I once visited a facility that was originally rated by the fire department to be able to have plenty of ethanol on site for use in ethanol extractions. Then, the city built a passenger light rail train track that routed right past their building. Suddenly, they were severely restricted as to how much ethanol they could have on site and had to pivot to using other extraction methods. This is an extreme example, but the last thing you want to do is pick out and purchase hundreds of thousands of dollars of extraction equipment only to find out you can't use it in your facility. Extraction methods and associated equipment. This brings me to my next topic, which is the importance of choosing your extraction methods and associated equipment for your facility. This is something that you will want to decide on early, because it will determine the kinds of rooms you will need to build, the type and amount of electricity you need to have available, the alarm and emergency systems that you will need, other utility hookups you will need to have available, and many other factors. I mentioned before that you will need to make sure your chosen extraction solvent is allowed in your state and municipality. Once that is determined, there will be further requirements you will need to follow, such as building and fire codes to ensure the equipment can be operated safely. Butane and propane, for example, require C1D1 explosion-rated rooms to operate safely in. These rooms contain things like spark-free outlets and lights, as well as chemical sensors to alert occupants when butane or propane is present in the air. CO2 extractors also require sensors to alert when CO2 has reached unsafe levels in the area. Beyond code requirements, you will also need to ensure that there is enough space around your equipment for employees to work, as well as to maintain and repair it. Think about what you might have to do if a particular component were to need to be replaced. You don't want to be left in a situation where you have to blow a whole wall out just to move something in or out. And I'm speaking from experience here. Another consideration is the quality of the equipment you will be purchasing. Make sure you are purchasing equipment from a quality manufacturer and that the equipment is rated by an NRTL. One common NRTL is Underwriters Laboratory, or UL. So you will often hear people talk about UL-listed equipment. This is a bit like calling nose tissues Kleenex. UL isn't the only NRTL, but many people refer to NRTL-rated products as UL-listed, even if the NRTL was TUV, ETL, NSF, or another one. One common pitfall is to assume that a CE rating counts as NRTL rating. It does not. CE is a European standard that is not as rigorous as those provided by an NRTL. Properly sizing and matching equipment can be another challenge for people new to the industry. If you get an ethanol extractor, how big of a rotovap and thin film evaporator do you need to keep up with the extractor's output? You don't want to get equipment that is too small, causing a bottleneck. You also don't want equipment that is too large because some equipment requires a minimum amount of input material to operate properly, and maintenance can be unnecessarily costly. I offer extraction equipment for sale and can properly match the components to provide you the most efficient setup possible. Contact me if you're interested. Flexibility. The cannabis industry is constantly evolving, and new products and extraction methods are being developed all the time. It is important to design a facility that is flexible and adaptable and can easily accommodate changes and upgrades as needed. This can be achieved through the use of modular construction techniques, which allow for easy expansion or reconfiguration of the facility. Purchasing equipment that can perform more than one function can also help with your flexibility. Sustainability. Finally, sustainability should also be a consideration when designing a marijuana extraction facility. The facility should be designed to minimize its environmental impact through the use of energy-efficient equipment, renewable energy sources, and sustainable building materials. In conclusion, designing a marijuana extraction facility requires careful planning and consideration of several factors, including safety, efficiency, compliance, flexibility, and sustainability. These are just some of the principles that I use when designing a cutting-edge cannabis extraction facility. By keeping these factors in mind, it is possible to design a facility that provides a safe and comfortable working environment, is capable of producing quality, consistent products, and that can help meet the growing demand for cannabis products in your legal marketplace. I know it's a lot, but remember, I'm available to help you design your facility to make sure all of this is done right the first time, saving you loads of time and money down the road. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you all next time. Peace.